Hey family, thank you for tuning into this video today. Hey, look, I've got a super exciting collaboration today. I'm going to be joined by former Premiership winner for the North Queensland Cowboys, Lachlan Coote. Lachlan Coote is now turned real estate agent working on the ground there in Townsville, and I'm super excited to be talking to Lockie today about all things Townsville. So if you're a home buyer or investor, stick around. I think you're going to get some tremendous value out of some of the topics we're going to be covering today, from what are some of the best schools in the area, what are some of the best suburbs for families, what are some of the best areas to invest, what are the areas that flood. So there's going to be plenty of insights about the Townsville property market and Townsville in general from Mr. Lachlan Coote. So stick around, guys, and I hope you get some value, and let's go and meet Mr. Coote now.
Running the football in the last bell on the inside to Burns. They might finish with a try. They will to Lachlan Coote. Very little for the Penrith fans to cheer about, but Lachlan Coote gets the final points. And that's their first of the afternoon. They've had to wait they've had to wait longer than 80 minutes.
Well called.
All right, good morning, Lachlan Coote / Cootie. Welcome, mate. Excited to have you here to share, a lot of insightful things about Townsville. I know you've, been a man on the ground there for a number of years before you moved over, and now super excited to have you on, and thank you again for your time.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk some real estate and not rugby league.
Yeah, mate. Well, look, Coon, before we dive into real estate, I just want to, I suppose, give people an introduction into Townsville, just at a high level, and speak to, some of the things that you like about Townsville and what's it like living on the ground there. So I'll probably want to start off first, Cootie, is just giving people some background in relation to how long you've lived in Townsville for now, and what's life like.
Well, yeah, the first time I come to Townsville after my stint with the Panthers, I moved up here at the end of 2013 to do the 2014 pre-season with the Cows, which from day one pretty much loved it. It's a great community up here, and obviously a small sort of town in itself, obviously like big enough city in a way, but the community that we have up here is very enjoyable, and everyone sort of knows everyone. It can be a good thing in a way, and it can be a bad thing, but from day one, pretty much loved it up here. And me and my partner bought a property up here in Adalia, and haven't looked back since. But we've been here so we did that stint for 5 years, and then moved overseas for another 5 years, and now we're back here, and this is our going into our 6th year now. So, but it's been awesome since being here.
Yeah, and you grew up in the foot of the mountains, the Windsor area, did you?
Yeah, so Windsor, Western Sydney area, Windsor way. Played with the Windsor Wolves, or my local rugby league team, and that was part of obviously the Panthers development areas within that area in the catchment of Penrith Panthers. So did all my junior footy down there, and moved up here. But we had the opportunity when we were coming back from England to go back to Sydney and be with most of our family that's down there. But the lifestyle and what we experienced here in Townsville was too good to sort of walk away from. And the wife and I and the kids, we started from scratch in many places, and knowing that we could come back to an area that we knew quite well was definitely a yes from us.
Because there's quite the contrast going from the foot of the mountains to somewhere like Townsville in North Queensland. So when you talk about lifestyle specifically, like what were some of the things that you guys liked as a family that really you felt that Townsville was the place to come back to after your stint in England?
Yeah, well, you see there is a lot of retired players that stay up here, and when they've done their time with playing professional rugby league, they hang around because it is such a good community to be a part of. But the things that we found the best thing, we're obviously from Sydney, so Sydney's quite busy in terms of traffic. There's a lot of people down there, there's a lot of development down there as well, whereas we found in Townsville it was a bit more sort of peaceful in a way. The lifestyle is good, less traffic, and there's just, great facilities. You've got the Strand, it's easy to get around in the city, And then also, if you want to go out west or anything like that, it's got some great, adventurous things like, Crystal Creek and all those types of things that are nice to sort of visit as well. Also, probably our favourite spot in Townsville is going to Magnetic Island, taking the kids over to Magnetic Island, which is, I think a favourable thing for the Townsville people and the residents. It's so easy to get over there. You can take your car over there as well. So, and it's almost like going overseas with a 25-minute trip on a boat. So
Yeah.
you feel like you're away from home. You're on holidays, and you can just go for the weekend, which is good.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is like the public amenity, like the things like the Strand and the riverside and all that public infrastructure that's there. You can go and enjoy stuff in the parklands and in the council zones that are free of charge. But within close radius, you've got things like the creek and things like the beach and things like the island that you feel as though you can get away from your own house and feel like you're almost on holiday as well, just by simply going outside and around the area.
Yeah, definitely. That's it. And then also having the access to everything that a major city has. You've got the sports for the kids, you've got great schools as well. And, the friends we've got family up here now, which as well, the in-laws have moved up to because they loved it from, visiting as well. So all those things that we had access to was a no-brainer to come back here and enjoy the lifestyle that Townsville offers.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it's got the NRL, and obviously, you're a Cowboys old boy. What would you say your favorite thing about Townsville is? Is it having the Cowboys there and the football?
I think, yeah, that is a big bonus as well. Also, the new stadium. We've come back and experienced a few games now, home games since we've been back, and that's an unbelievable stadium, and it's created some excitement around the city as well. Yeah, being around the Cowboys is good. Always, we got invited in there with the old boys and stuff like that. We got those things coming up, so they're always exciting to be a part of. Obviously, not hanging on to it at all, but it's always good to be sort of recognised as a past player. So yeah, they're always good to have.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you guys arrived in 2014, and then you since come back. So there's about a stint there where you went away, and then you obviously came and spent a period of time there. Has much changed around Townsville, like since 2014 to now, like the lay of the land, the people, the size of the town, the
Yeah,
look and feel of the place? Has a lot changed?
I feel that it's a bit more busier than from when we left. So there's obviously a lot more people that's coming to town. Infrastructure, local businesses started. The amount of coffee shops the new coffee shops that have popped up. Obviously, that was a bit of a hobby of ours as rugby league players. We got a fair bit of time off during the day, so you do some coffee shop hops around. And yeah, there's some definitely new ones to check out and nice ones. And the standard's gone to another level as well, I believe, in terms of food, the way the entertainment and stuff like that with the stadium, which is exciting. So yeah, it's definitely heading in the right direction, I believe.
And those are generally all the little perks you get living in a big city, right? You get all the trendy cafes and restaurants and things like that. But it sounds like Townsville is well on its way to having a lot of that and has had that in recent years now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it is good, and like I said, it's definitely heading in the right direction, and you've got access to all the things that major cities have.
And when you guys arrived, did you initially buy an Adalia when you arrived?
Yeah, so so I bought in the end of, I think in November time, the end of 2013, and the market was probably a buyer's market at that point, which, you could sort of negotiate for a property, whereas now it's like, okay, this is it. There's a whole lot of buyers on demand in these properties.
Yeah.
So you've got to, adjust your budget and all that kind of things. Whereas, back then you could sort of negotiate on a price, which I still believe I paid overs for, but I'm very grateful that I sort of hung on to that property. When we moved overseas, we hung on to it and rented it out. Then became an investment property. But I'm very grateful that I hung on to the property and to see what the market's doing now and get that capital gain on the property.
Yeah, it would be very challenging to buy back into the market, but at the same time, buying, in 2014, you guys would have reaped some really good upside there as well. Probably would be a lot more expensive to buy that same house today, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely. It definitely seen some capital growth since then in the town, and even in the last 6 months, it's gone ridiculous.
Yeah. And just throughout your stint while you were in Townsville, were you at all at any time affected by the floods when they came through during your
Yeah.
time there?
So I had moved. I left in the end of the 18th season, so played the 18th season, and then I went overseas for the 19th season, 2019 or 2019 season. So I think that's when was it the floods? Yeah, so the floods sort of hit the start of 2019, I'm pretty sure, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we were over there, but yeah, like I said, I held onto the house. The fella that moved into the house was one of the Cowboys trainers as well. So the floods went through Adalia and flooded one of our properties, flooded my property. So yes, it did get affected, and it was pretty difficult living overseas and trying to deal with the insurance companies and then the builders and all that kind of stuff. So it was although we didn't experience it firsthand, it was a pretty frustrating time to have our property get flooded and affected by it.
Mm. Yeah, and just your understanding of the market. Obviously, you'd kind of have, an understanding, or you'd be well informed around what suburbs are flood affected in the marketplace of Townsville. Like, aside from Adali, what are some of the other areas that were hardly impacted at the time?
Yeah, so there was a lot of suburbs that were affected, but that's the big argument at the moment, whether it was self-inflicted through releasing of the dam at the wrong time or anything like that. Yeah, there's a big argument around that because everyone, I don't know, the talk around town is that if the dam wasn't released, then the areas that got affected wouldn't have been flooded, like such as Adalia and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
my property as well, which I'm sort of sitting on the fence with. I wasn't here and I didn't experience it at the time, so it's sort of hard to judge. But all those areas mostly along the riverside, particularly towards down near near the sea, whereas like Adalia, Hermit Park, Hyde Park, those sort of areas got affected. Parts of Annandale were affected as well. Not all parts of Adalia, but I think most of it. So those areas got affected, but then due to obviously being a high tide at the time, dam getting released, the water had nowhere to go except for into the areas, the suburbs of Townsville. So that's my sort of understanding of it at the moment, and which is disappointing to see because those sort of areas that got affected, they're really key areas to Townsville suburbs and nice areas for the families and stuff like that, and also investors as well.
Yeah, well, Adalia is one of the new areas, and you'd think, that place would be well mitigated from potential disasters like floods. Developers, they go through, stringent planning processes, and, builders have to, build property to certain standards as well. And like you said, it could have been some things could have potentially been avoided there, and that's up for debate. But
Yeah.
by and large, from what I'm hearing from yourself, is some some of the suburbs that snake along the Ross River, generally, and particularly in the low-lying areas, are the ones that were affected at the time.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, you're right. So yeah, it's hard to say with the debate what happened there and everything like that. But who knows whether it still would have flooded without the dam getting released or not. Hopefully that's not the case because, like you just mentioned, the developers have, they've done all the right plannings in place to make sure that that doesn't happen.
And could a lot of the investors that are looking to buy in the area, particularly that follow these sort of videos and are hungry for this sort of information, could you sort of speak to what your insurance cover was like prior to the floods, and what are you paying now? And then how does that compare to, let's say, the average of Townsville in terms of what the average homeowner is paying in terms of insurance?
Yeah, well, I think the insurances are quite high in Townsville already, and as you would know, probably being in the tropics, we get cyclones and stuff like that. So I think already they're already at a higher premium than down south. So, but I think through what we've experienced, I think our premium's sort of gone up a little bit in terms of whether it was due to the flooding and stuff like that. But I think on average, I think we're playing around that $6,000 mark, and then that's probably on average around the 5,000. It's sort of hard to get a gauge on what everyone's sort of paying, but generally they are a higher interest rate, and I think that's why investors before this run of price growth or capital gain growth across the market at the moment, people sort of steered away from Townsville because you had the higher interest rates, high council rates and high insurances as well. So generally, they are pretty high up here.
Yeah, what I found was the suburbs that were previously flood affected, there's been at least a 20% increase in the overall sort of insurance cover. And then I'm finding on average, like the ones that weren't affected, like if you got to shop around, but you sort of, as you said, ranging between sort of $3,000 on the low end and sort of $6,000 to $7,000 on the high end, and I think the middle ground sort of sits between sort of $4,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
And that just like you said, it's just the cost of living up in the tropics, and it comes with the territory, and we do pay a slightly higher premium, and that's as a result of being in the tropics and slightly exposed to some of these weather events that happen, like cyclones and floods.
So the higher end, like there's some people playing sort of up near 12 grand or something like that. So I'm thankful that our premiums haven't shot up that fast, and maybe that is a case of insurance companies looking into it being a self-inflicted flood or not. Hopefully they're taking that into consideration. But you're right. There's been a definitely uplift in the premiums since the flood.
Yeah, mate. Obviously, a lot of families, they move into the areas and they want to be sort of around good amenity, and they also want to be close to schools as well and in school catchments. Was that a key decision around where you wanted to be based as well for your family? Being close to some good schools, and just in addition to that, like what are some of the better schools in Townsville that tend to be the most popular?
Well, we've got well, at the time, moving up to Townsville wasn't even a thought. We didn't have kids. We didn't have the kids. We didn't have kids then. But I think we've got in a reasonable, nice area anyway, close to the city, and then close to some good schools as well. Like we're only the suburb next to us is the Dahlia. They've got some great schools there, state and private schools as well. But then the probably the best schools at the moment, we've probably got the best reputation to say is probably Grammar as well, which is I think a private school, and they've got 3 different locations within Townsville. So you've got Annandale, North Ward, and one out at Burdell, so north of the city, but obviously not too far. Every suburb in Townsville is only like a 30-minute drive to the city, well, the furthest one away anyway. So it's not like Sydney, and probably pretty similar to Cairns as well. But so you've got Grammar, and then you've got Cathedral as well. So they're probably up there with probably the best reputation schools in Townsville at the moment. But me being a state school fella, I was born and bred in Windsor, and went through all the public schools as well. We've got some great ones around as well in those areas. And they're spread out. It's surprisingly, looking into how many schools are in Townsville, there's a lot around, and people have got a lot of access to those.
So what I'm hearing is that there are a number of good public and private schools. It sounds like the Grammar ones tends to be particularly the ones that are most popular at the moment. And you can get to basically almost any school regardless of where you live. The
Yeah,
bus probably services most schools, so you don't necessarily have to live in the immediate school catchment,
yeah.
as most things are accessible, from what I'm hearing as well.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a good thing around. I think being over in England when we took the kids over there and they were getting to that age of school. I think over there they were pretty strict with being in that catchment area, which I think you've got to have some element of that being in the catchment area. But they are open to people living in different suburbs and then travelling as well here in Townsville.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And now that's just sort of looking at things from a public amenity point of view. And you touched on, different coffee shops and the Esplanade and the Strand being very popular as well. What are some of the like more popular public amenity that's around the Townsville area and even outside of the Townsville, like Crystal Creek? So you said Maggie Island would be one, the Strand, Crystal
Yeah.
Creek. What sort of other things are there for families to do in the area as well?
Well, we've got obviously the usual things like, movie theatres, stuff like that. The thing that's sort of disappointing in a way, losing the HQ, was the biggest, what is it, tank reef
Mm.
that I think Australia had or something like that. Not 100%, but it was a massive reef inside a tank and everything like that. So Reef HQ. That's gone now, which is disappointing because we used to take the kids there and spend a lot of weekends there, sort of just walking in and out.
Yeah, I took my
But
kids there as well. Like, yeah,
oh yeah, yeah,
really good spot. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was really good. So disappointing. Hopefully, there is talks there of it sort of getting upgraded, but yeah, whether that goes ahead or not, hopefully it does because it was a good addition to Townsville. But yeah, like we've touched on, you got the Strand, Maggie Island that offers a lot of things to do over there. You've got some awesome bays that you can swim at as well. And then, yeah, Crystal Creek is a main one. But then you also, you've got access to things like that you can travel around, like Paluma and all that kind of stuff up there in the rainforest areas within Townsville. And then Mission Beach as well, which is not too far. They're sort of the main attractions I'd say that we've sort of spent times at as families and getting around. But then all in all, back to the sports and everything that they offer here and all those things that families are doing on the weekends, spending their times with like us as well.
Yeah, yeah.
young
Oh, that's
young
good.
fellas in the rugby league team. So
Yeah.
we're doing that. The daughter's doing dancing. So, we're busy doing those things.
There's plenty to offer Townsville by the sounds of it.
Mm.
Just to speak specifically about some of those beaches. So you can obviously swim on these beaches, and a lot of people from New South Wales or Victoria probably going, oh, there's crocodiles and jellyfish and things like that. But
Yeah.
most of the beaches, right, they have stingers nets on the Esplanade, and then obviously some of the bays and some of the residential beaches like Bushland Beach and things like that, Ballgill Beach. They're all swimmable as well at certain times of the year, definitely.
Yeah, so yeah, obviously in the cooler months, Townsville doesn't really have a winter, so obviously you can swim all year round. But yeah, in the summer months when the stingers are out, you obviously got the nets to protect the locals who obviously swim in there every day, and then during the winter months that obviously the nets aren't there, but generally the stingers aren't around then, and the more often than not, the crocodiles are more north than what Townsville is. So the beaches are accessible all year round, and that's the good thing about it. Living over in England, that's what I miss the most. Obviously, Townsville, the Strand doesn't look as good as obviously some beaches like the Gold Coast and all that kind of stuff, but it does look a whole lot better than what England provides, and
Yeah.
that's what I was looking forward to the most, coming back, doing some runs and going for a swim in the beach.
Yeah. Oh, and less crowded too. So, you go to
Yeah,
Burley Beach these days and, Tweed Heads, and they're absolutely packed. You'd be
yeah,
lucky getting a spot on the beach, but there's plenty of opportunity for families to go out, pull out a rug and, get set up on one of the beaches without it being overpopulated by people, right?
Yeah, 100%. And you've also got the rock pool as well. That they sort of let the salt water come in I think each Thursday or once a month they might release it and then get some new water in. So that's obviously salt water and stuff as well. And then you've got the swimming pool, Brook swimming pool down on the Strand as well, which is accessible for residents as well.
Oh, I love that rock pool. Yeah, that's such a good setup there.
Mm.
And that cafe as well is pretty good. It's a good place to chill out.
Yeah,
And
it's sitting
occasionally
right
you
on
can see
top
the
of it.
Cowboys do some recovery there as well if they're lucky.
Yeah, they're true. Yeah, they're always down there doing some recovery and stuff. Oh, probably not since they've got their new facilities. All their new facilities are pretty high standard in there. Swimming pools, ice baths, and all that kind of stuff. So,
Mate, you mentioned before, so you and your family end up buying in Adalia and you had a number of reasons why you guys purchased there. Obviously, access to the city, and there were some good schools close by. Could you kind of speak to, maybe give me your top 4 suburbs that you think are the best suburbs, well positioned for families, like your typical household family, husband, wife, 2 kids.
yeah. Well, yeah, I would say obviously one of them's Adalia, nice area. Obviously got the lakes there, so the family and I are always mostly every afternoon are walking around those lakes, taking the dogs for walks and stuff like that, and seeing a lot of people out and about in those areas, which that provides a nice area. You've got Mount Stewart in the background, so you're walking around, you've got good views of the mountain ranges in that area. Also, obviously, great shopping facilities now, and it's still being developed as we speak. You've got obviously the main shopping centres, the main grocery stores, there's Woolies, Coles, and then some local businesses as well. But then gyms set up there as well. So, and then daycare centres are all around that area. But then, yeah, you've got Annandale as well, which is great. Annandale's not too far from, which is I feel is a good suburb for people who are working in the army barracks, and then obviously studying at JCU as well. And then Townsville Hospital is just around the corner too. So you've got easy access to them. It's literally probably a 5-minute drive to those that I've just mentioned. And then you got the nice like part, I would say, but more sort of probably expensive area is in North Ward. So sits at the front of Castle Hill, looks out over to Maggie Island, all off the coast and stuff. So that's a really nice area that people are looking into and coming to. But yeah, and obviously that's more of the expensive side of Townsville with that suburb. And then also in the sort of north suburb, like north of Townsville, you've got Burdell as well. So created an awesome suburb out there with all the facilities that you need. Obviously, doctors, you got Bunnings, you got Woolworths, all those stuff, all the amenities that you need, and then only I think it's like 25 minutes to the city centre, so not too far out of the city.
Well, there you go, guys. So we got Adalia, Annandale, North Ward, and Burdell. In your opinion, the best top
I
4
think,
suburbs
yeah.
for towns or for families. There's a lot of Lockie. There's a lot of older suburbs in Townsville, and a lot of them have like the older properties that are post-war homes and things like that, 40, 50-year-old properties. But a lot of these areas are very well located, like locations like West End, Heatley, Cranebrook. They're all very old in nature. Are you seeing a lot of those areas, particularly the older ones, starting to gentrify now, where people are going in and buying these older, cheaper properties and renovating them? And what suburbs are you seeing them in specifically?
Yeah, definitely the ones that you've just mentioned there. I know Heatley's getting a lot of heat around it, just particularly in terms of investors as well. But the more I've found is probably the suburbs of like South Townsville and Railway Estate. You've obviously got all those nice old Queenslanders that are getting renovated. You're getting the local builders that are jumping on these properties. Obviously bought them and still reasonably priced for being right next to Queensland Country Bank Stadium there, and a 5-minute drive to the city as well. Still reasonably priced, but that I feel like that area's getting transformed in a way, a nice transformation.
Yeah, I'm gutted because I missed out on a property in Railway Estate 2 weeks ago off market. We could have
Oh,
picked it
right,
up for
yeah.
around 420,000, an older Queenslander, but on the same street you could see these renovated homes that are just beautiful. Like these would be
Yeah,
$700,000-800,000 properties as well, and we could
yeah,
have picked one up for 420. And yeah, I've definitely seen that wave of people buying these older homes and renovating. Because if you think about it, they're very well located as well, because Townsville's just going to continue to sprawl outwards, and
yeah,
obviously people over time want to be more closer to a lot of that amenity, and places like Heatley, Cranbrook, West End, Railway Estate, particularly those older homes. People are going to go, well, the locations are great. We just need to sink a bit of money into the dwelling and make it fit for purpose, and that's how that gentrification then happens.
yeah. And that's good to see. Like, Townsville city's getting bigger, and those areas are surrounding the city centre. So it's great for those areas, and it's good to see, the builders sort of getting those renovations done, because renovated Queenslanders look really nice.
Mm. And just to sort of, in addition to that, Lockie, a lot of investors, they're looking for where they can get the best bang for buck, where's good value in the marketplace. Where do you think there is good value in the marketplace now, where you probably see a suburb that hasn't probably necessarily boomed, where it still has a lot of upside, where you can still buy something that you believe has a lot of wiggle room to perform, given its location, given the price point, given the access to amenity that is there? Where do you think is good value for money in town at the moment?
I still think, like, for being close to the city, I'm going to suggest a couple of suburbs. One we've just touched on is probably Railway Estate. Still, medium house price is sitting under 450, and also a Noomba as well. A Noomba is just out a suburb right next to Adalia, and again, only less than 10-minute drive to the city, and still can pick up houses for around that 400 to 450 mark, which I still believe is good value, and probably not so much to the first home buyer and the local buyers, because they're seeing prices sort of go through the roof from what they were 4 years ago to 3 years ago. But to those southern buyers, this is a great value, and where you are positioned in Townsville, I still believe these cities are probably the ones to look into.
Okay, all right. And when you say, it's still good value, particularly for those that are interstate, do you get a lot of interstate inquiries made, or people from out of region reach out to your office? Like, is the activity high from
Yeah, there
interstate?
is. There's a lot of southern buyers, and I think to do with probably what's going on around town, in particular with the army, we're getting some people come in, and all the other infrastructure stuff that's happening as well. So there's a lot of things happening in town, which is good, and that's probably driving the prices a bit higher, which is tough for the locals and the first home buyers as well, but also those guys that bought in the peak of in around the 2008 and 2009 period, where prices spiked but then plummeted. It's good to see those people sort of bounce back and get that lift and that growth that they sort of bought at the high and experienced the low, and now they're finally getting the high again. There's some record medium house prices getting around at the moment, so that's good to see. But again, yeah, still cheap for, like I said, those southern buyers, which we are getting a lot of inquiries from.
And you mentioned, like, there's a lot happening in the economy now, and Townsville's really, kicked into gear after probably many years of underperformance from, a house price point of view. But the economy is now churning, and that's rippling down into the housing market as well. And it's obviously attracted a lot of interstate buyers and investors. How would you describe, Lockie, the Townsville economy? Like, what's your 30-second sort of summary of, let's say, the Townsville economy?
I would say it's going good at the moment, and hopefully it sort of continues to. Obviously, we don't want to see a ridiculous amount of growth, which we're seeing, and it's tough at the moment because it's hard to sort of people can't get that borrowing capacity to get into the market. But I feel if we keep steady growing up, seeing it grow over time, I feel like the economy is definitely heading in the right direction with things. And, seeing local businesses thrive as well, which, a few years ago, a lot of local businesses were going under, just shut up shop, and that's a hard place to be in. You want to see all those local businesses survive, and I feel like that's sort of where we're heading at the moment to bring more people into the town, to obviously, generate the economy, I guess.
Yeah, because
In
I've
terms
noticed
of, yeah.
even when I came to look at Townsville 6 years ago, when we came watch the footy and spent a couple of days there. I noticed driving down Nathan Street, Hughes Street, along Ingham Road, even through the CBD, like there were a lot of for lease signs, because the economy wasn't churning at the time, and businesses, were struggling. And now, I went back there 2 months ago, and things are like, yeah, you don't see a for lease sign anywhere now along those big major veins of roads where there's a lot of those commercial opportunities and spaces. Now every place seems to be packed now, and businesses just popped up like daisies all around the place. So that really speaks to that economy. Lachlan, just in terms of breaking down this economy a little bit more, so what would you say are the bigger sort of industries or employment hubs around town? You touched on the army barracks. They're probably a massive employer in town. I know that Townsville acts as a big sort of regional hub for particularly primary healthcare, and then more specialised health services as well. I know whenever there's a medical emergency in Cairns or specialised surgeries, people have to fly into Townsville, not only from Cairns, but from Cape York, from out west, Mount Isa. So could you maybe speak to maybe some of the big industries and employers in town?
Yeah, well, that's why I think Townsville is going so well and held together reasonably well. Due to the army as well. You've got the university and then the hospital as well, which like some of the things you've just touched on as well. But then also the other things that are going on, the expansions of, or like there is JCU's expanding, and then you've got the port as well, which is expanding, which is creating more jobs. And then over in, southern Townsville, where the port road sort of exits town, like it goes from the port, which is it's called the Port Road, and goes out to the Bruce Highway. You've got all that infrastructure there where, you've got commercial buildings going up as well. So all those things are creating job and excitement around town. Obviously, Townsville is expanding and getting bigger. So in terms of the economy at the moment, we're probably not where we need to be, but I feel like in the near future, we're going to be a regional city that's buzzing.
Yeah, it looks like Townsville's also going to be like a major hub for renewable energy as well, and quite pivotal in terms of leading the way for Queensland, I think, in the renewable energy space. And I think that's also going to be another big employer in the area. Not only for the next couple of years, but that industry creates lifelong jobs too, I believe.
Definitely, and that's good to see as well. Like the infrastructure, the copper string line coming from Mount Isa to Townsville and stuff. I haven't read up onto it massively, but yeah, like you've touched on, that's another expansion thing that's creating a lot of excitement around Townsville and jobs as well.
Yeah. Lucky, when people are moving into the area and investing in the area, obviously they want to understand like kind of like the good, bad, and the ugly. Obviously everyone has their own opinion of what's good and what's bad. That's quite a subjective thing. But could you maybe speak to what are some of the areas historically, or just from a local perspective, that you would consider the less desirable parts of towns, or the lower socio-economic areas? Because it could be twofold, right? It could be for the homeowner. They might want to try and avoid those areas, but at the same time, an investor might go, I see opportunity there because I can get in at a lower price point. I could make some money. Or even someone moving in there, they can go, well, I don't care about that area. It's cheap for me. I can renovate and add value to the property rather than paying a premium, living in the neighbouring suburb where it might be an extra $100,000 more. So, yeah, could you
Yeah.
maybe share a bit of insight around what are some of the areas that have a local stigma about them being not so good?
Yeah, definitely. So you've got the areas which is surprising to see as well, but it was only going to happen in a period of time, obviously, with the market going the way it is. So the areas like Condon, these are northwest of sort of Townsville, over near the dam, so snake along the Ross River. But yeah, so you've got Kelso, Condon, Rasmussen, they're always been sort of the areas that people tend to steer away from, in terms of living there and then obviously investing there as well. But we're seeing a lot of people sort of investing there, because the yields stack up. It's still reasonably priced as well, and then also we're finding first home buyers might be heading out that way as well, just because it is affordable. So I feel that in 5 years' time, there's also development going on out there. They're scratching in the land now, which is good to see. So I feel in about 5 years or so, this suburb is going to transform as well and become more appealing to first home buyers or local people who just want to live out there, and then obviously investors as well. So this is one of the suburbs, but then also you've got closer to the city, you've got Pimlico and Vincent as well. That are areas that are usually people are steering away from, but again, they are still reasonably priced, so we are seeing local buyers head into these areas.
Yeah, I've noticed there's been a lot of investors moving in droves to places like Condon, Kelso, Rasmussen. Yeah, absolutely, because you could still get like a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom brick home on 600 square meters under, 500,000 in most
Yeah,
cases. And 12 months ago, probably could have got that for 350, and now it's like
yeah,
450
definitely.
and pushing up into the fives. I was buying a lot in Bushland Beach and Mount Low, and everything was like 450, and now you hardly get anything for under 500,000. It's now 550 into the 600. So that creates a ripple effect into these other neighbouring suburbs, as you suggested, where the first home buyers and the local market go, oh, well, I'm going to bite the bullet. Probably not the best place to set up, but it's actually well within our budget, and we can make it work there.
Yeah,
Because some of these other areas have certainly raced away from a
yeah,
median house
definitely.
price point of view, right?
And I feel like anywhere, in areas that, like even in Adalia and stuff like that, you've sort of got certain pockets and stuff. So it doesn't matter where you sort of live, there's always going to be certain pockets that are rough, I guess, and you're always going to have those areas. So yeah, I feel like don't shy away from them. If you can get in the market, and make that transform.
Yeah. And mate, on the flip side to that, you touched on one of the suburbs before being more your premium upmarket areas and North Ward. Obviously, there's a lot of well-paid professionals and people that are moving in to take up executive job opportunities, government jobs. So they're well paid, and I think a lot of those people want to understand as well, maybe where some of the more upmarket areas might be or where they can be based. Could you maybe speak to some of those locations? You mentioned
Yep.
North Ward. I
Yeah.
think. What is it? Mount Louisa has some really good pockets as well, I believe.
Yeah,
What's some
definitely.
of your suburbs, Lockie?
Yeah, so you've got Mount Louisa, North Ward that we've touched on, and then you've got Rose Bay as well. Belgium Gardens is so they're all at the front there, sort of closer to the ocean, and Palaranda and all that, the beach that runs out sort of north of just Townsville.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah, nice area. So you got those sort of areas, but then over near Douglas, which is right near the university and the Townsville Hospital, up on the hill there. Douglas, you've got some really nice pockets there in Douglas, in some houses sitting sort of off Mount Stewart, sitting pretty there. So got some beautiful views that look across Townsville suburbs.
And I've noticed, like even like North Ward and Mount Louisa, like you got some pockets where your houses are like 800 to $1 million, but then some pockets where you can still get in like at a very affordable price point around that 450 to 500. So it comes back to the point that you made around even the good suburbs still have, some different pockets within them at different price points.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it varies a lot in some of the suburbs as well. So, but yeah, like I mentioned before, if you can get into the market, get in now rather than later.
And just sort of speaking about that market, Lockie, I want to kind of get your thoughts on, where you see this market going. Like, let's fast forward 10 years from now. What do you think the median house price would be? And what sort of town, what would Townsville look like then?
I think I hope all the infrastructure, because it comes down to on a bigger scale with all the expansions and all the infrastructure and stuff that we touched on with the copper string line and the university and the army as well. All those things have to fall in place for the residential market to expand and get bigger. So I feel if that all happens, then yeah, definitely Townsville is going to be a lot more expensive place to come in terms of median house price. I think it's roughly sitting around that 450, I think now. So yeah, it's definitely going to head up towards the 500 mark in the next 10 years, I would say, even in the 550 as well. So it's definitely heading in the right direction, and it's good to see. But then also locals such as myself, you still want to be a part of a good community and still have that low key sort of lifestyle and laid back in a way. But then you don't want to see local businesses suffering because of those things. Those bigger projects didn't go ahead, and I think that's what we sort of seen in and around that 2008, 2009 period. Some of the state government projects were not introduced or they got pulled. Clive Palmer and his the copper
Queensland nickel, yeah.
Yeah, Queensland nickel thing went under. So, a lot of people left the town because of that. And then we had a whole lot of stock with no buyers. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But I can't see it happen in the next 10 years, so which is a good thing.
Yeah, and even if you compare like Townsville's median house price of roughly around 450, 4 hours down up the road, Cairns, it's sort of 550 kissing 600. So, and Townsville's a bigger place. Obviously, a lot of different dynamics and different variables, but it is a big regional hub that's probably underperformed and still has a lot of catching up to do relative to these other markets that, have very similar qualities.
Yeah, definitely has a lot of catching up to do. And I feel that Townsville is such a great city that it sort of deserves that in a way.
I do believe that as well.
We don't just rely on one thing. We're not relying on tourism or anything like that. We're very diverse in all the projects that are going ahead and what we've got in this town. So I definitely feel it deserves to be up there with the bigger cities, competing with the bigger cities.
Yeah, I've always said that this cycle that we're in now is just a correction. It's just correcting itself and getting back to its rightful place of, I think, being on top as the OG of regional Queensland. I think because Townsville definitely has, as you said, all of those qualities. So just sort of going a bit deeper into Townsville, Lockie, I've got a couple more questions.
Yeah, mate.
Just going a bit deeper into Townsville. Obviously, you mentioned that Townsville's going to perform, but that's over the next 10 years, but a lot of things need to happen. But within the marketplace of Townsville, what do you think, what suburbs do you think are probably the ones that are going to best perform? Like where you see their median house price is not slowing down anytime soon and the ones that are going to outperform across the marketplace because of supply and demand factors, desirability, amenity, all of those key things that play into
well, I think some of the lower end medium house prices, like in terms of like Kerwin, Vincent, Condon, Rasmussen, all those areas, I think are going to perform probably the best over this period of time, just because it is such a lower end scale of the market, and that always seems to tend to sort of move quicker than the upper end. But in terms of the areas I feel that will perform the best over the next sort of 5 to 10 years is probably, Adalia, Annandale, Douglas and Kerwin. And I feel these areas, because they are so close to the major things in Townsville, like I've touched on it a few times, but the university, the Townsville Hospital and the Army Barracks as well. So these areas are always going to tend to perform, I believe.
There you go, guys. The insight from Lachlan Coote around some suburbs that might do really well. But this is not specific investment advice, guys. Um, Lachlan, last question, mate. Could you just speak to you're relatively new into real estate now, and you're on the ground, you're cutting your teeth, you're learning the game. But could you sort of speak to what it's like right now as an agent in Townsville? Are you getting smashed with calls? Are open homes busy? Are things going under contract very fast? What's life like day to day for you as an agent in town at the moment?
It's tough, to be honest. And people say, yes, it's a good time to get in and be a real estate agent. But the hardest thing at the moment, because there is such limited stock out there and limited people who want to put their property on the market, we're finding it very hard to get the stock in to obviously to list it. So in terms of once they are on the market, then they're getting snapped up within minutes of them presenting. Particularly the price range between the 300 to up to around that 600 mark, they're going within minutes. They're under contract. But then, I think that's the fear around people putting their property on the market, is the fact that they've got to buy in this market again. So whether they want to take advantage of the market and reap the rewards of, the growth that they've had in their property, they're also got to go and find another property to buy, which, there's limited stock. You don't have much choice out there to what you want. There is some buyers out there that are sort of, they want the pool, they want the solar, they want the 4, 2 and 2, whereas I feel you can't be that picky at the moment with what you want. And which, it's hard for the buyers, and I get their frustration, but that's just what we're in at the moment. And like we've talked on before, we sort of needed this correction in a way to Townsville to get back to on track to where it should be. But as an agent, it's been good. It's been awesome so far, dealing with the clients and dealing with the buyers and understanding how to deal with all different personalities, which I'm enjoying at the moment. That's a big reason why I got into real estate, because I love meeting new people. I love hearing their stories and finding out the best way that that suits them, to how to educate them through the process of selling a house.
No, that's great, mate, and I wish you all the best for that, Lockie. I just wanted to add one more thing. You mentioned that a lot of people don't want to sell at the moment because the factor of them the fear factor around them buying back into a market where they'll be paying a premium for. But there's also the low vacancy rates as well. So if someone wants to sell and then rather than buy, they go and rent for 6 to 12 months, there's nowhere for even them to do that. And I know that the Townsville Army Barracks has always a spillover as well. Like when the new guys come in, the older established guys that are on base have to then go out into the rental market. So that's always creating a shortage of rental properties as well. And I think that could be playing into that fear factor as well. Limited rental stock available for people as well.
Oh, you're definitely right there. There's no doubt. Obviously, it's under under 1% vacancy rate or something like that. So, yeah, it is tough at the moment. And like I said, you can't be too picky with what you get these days.
Yeah. And Lockie, could you just describe to people the business that you're involved in now, Northern Realty, and I suppose if you're a home buyer investor, what you guys can do to potentially help them get into the market or provide information and guidance to help them buy or sell in the area?
Yeah, well, I think that was me getting into real estate. I knew how big culture and how big, trust and all those types of values things come into play with being a part of a good team. And, since coming to Northern Realty, I've found that, we've got a great culture with what we're doing here. And then we've also, we've got a lot of trust around this brand as well. So, Gavin McCullough is the principal of Northern Realty, but he's also, once I met the bloke, a really good bloke to be around, really good bloke to work for. There's always people coming in here to have a chat with him, just a general chat. And that's what I wanted to associate myself with, being around good people. And I feel, I've made the right decision around that because, within this business we are. So that's what I've wanted to base myself around as an agent, making sure that people have trust in myself and the brand as well. And that's what I feel that we provide here. We've got a good rent roll. We've got trusted property managers that do a great job. So if you are investing, please reach out to our property management team. But also with buyers as well, we're trying to facilitate, obviously our clients in selling, but then also facilitating buyers as well, which is, always tough in a way in a market that we're in right now. But we're adding people's data to our emailing list because some agents we are putting market. Some vendors don't want to pay for the marketing, so we're just adding them to our database, and we're listing them through our database. So make sure you do get out to your local agents and get your contact details and put them into their emailing list, because in a market like this, it's hard to find. So, but yeah, I feel like the brand as Northern Realty is a great brand and a trusted one as well.
Lachlan Coote, thank you for your time today. To hear that, guys, reach out to Northern Realty. Locklee's there on the ground in Townsville. New to real estate, but I'm sure he's going to be making waves there over the next few years. And look, sounds like the Northern Realty team have a very good brand, and it's a good company to work for. And it sounds like if you're investing in the area, there's a lot of value that they can provide with you with information. And obviously, they're good. Their property managers and their agents as well, and Lachlan included. So Lachlan, again, thank you, mate. And let's hopefully we can see the Cowboys make a run into the 8 this year, and then end up in the top 4, and then push on through the GF.
100%. Yeah, it's always exciting when the Cowboys do well. There's a good feeling around the town.
No, awesome. All right, Lockie, thank you for your time today, mate.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
No worries.